don't think he is, because I don't think he's smart enough. I think he's a selfish man who does not have a whole lot of brain cells in there, because you don't talk like that and not admit what's going on right in front of you, Brad. Oh, this breaks my heart. It really does. It breaks my heart to see these little tiny babies, some of them so badly nourished because their mothers don't have food and they don't have the ability to feed them. And this is a hospital maternity ward in Caracas that we're showing you. Bernie needs to see that.
Why doesn't it break Bernie's heart? What does he not see that we all see? Why can't he stand up if he's supposed to be the champion of the oppressed to see the kind of misery that socialism has brought what was once a very prosperous country?
Moment for Senator Sanders. He has jumped the shark by exposing the world to his selfish stupidity, by refusing to state the obvious, by refusing to admit that the socialist he considers his bud is nothing more than a brutal dictator. Bernie Sanders is refusing to call a man that has taken 5 American hostages, all fathers and grandfathers, and has held them for more than 450 days while killing dozens of protesters, including 2 more today who tried to cross the border into Brazil to get some food and medicine. He jails and tortures thousands of political prisoners, including some of the people that you have met on this very show, uses intimidation tactics, and courts bad guys like drug traffickers and Hezbollah terrorists. This is a man that manipulates elections by threatening to withhold basic human necessities like food or medicine for anyone who dares to cast a vote against him. This is a man who stole the election, and a man who the entire free world refuses to recognize as the true president of Venezuela. And yet Bernie Sanders, he refuses to admit that he's a dictator. Come on. We've got a real problem in this world, I'll tell you, when we fail to see right from wrong, when we fail to see and understand a humanitarian crisis for what it is, all because there's some elaborate version of socialism which politicians like this one, Bernie Sanders, have fallen in love with. Back here on planet Earth, we know what socialism does, we know. And we know what Chavez and Maduro have done. And if you're okay with all that, then, you know, Bernie, if you're okay with that, America, all of us, have a real problem with you. But nonetheless, there are those, before I go, there are those that are fascinated with this ideal. Amazing, right? Because, you know, hundreds of thousands of people are marching in the streets in Venezuela begging for the opportunity for capitalism and for democracy. You're looking at a hospital there. You know, they don't have any running water, but they've got plenty of leaks that they can't fix. Brad, it's a very different situation. They're begging for capitalism and freedom and open markets, while you have many young people here in America today that are saying, no, forget all that. We want Bernie. We want AOC. What do the young people that are supporting this, and old if they're out there, need to know?
They need to wake up and understand that America, we have nothing to apologize for. We're the light and beacon, as Ronald Reagan said, of that shining city on the hill. America is there to help. We're the most generous country in the world. But give us an opportunity to help.
Why not free housing? So why stop at free jobs for everybody, Bernie? Why not free housing, free food, free cars, free soapy massages, and free vacations, too? Joining me now with all those answers, the one and only genius legend comic, Dennis Miller. Hi, Dennis.
Free crap Olympics, Woo! My new favorite phrase.
Yeah. They're getting gold medals. They're going to make new medals. They're going to be platinum.
Can you imagine that Bernie Sanders, Kennedy, this will tell you how fractured the country is and how I don't even get how the other side. I mean, I look at Pelosi, and to me, Pelosi should be the third person in the car on a Sonic commercial. I mean, she looks absolutely crazy to me. And yet they believe in her. They believe in Sanders. Sanders offering kids a full-time government job. You think kids would turn their nose up and run, but indeed they voted for him. The last time I saw a bar set this low, I was at a dwarf's wake.
But here's the good news, everyone. He'll never be president. Absolutely not. He has definitely, tonight, jumped the shark. Joining me right now for more, former senior advisor to George W. Bush, Mr. Brad Blakeman. Brad, I think this is that moment. Like Fonzie, like Howard Dean. I mean, this is a guy who is unwilling to say Nicolas Maduro is a dictator.
Look, Bernie's had many moments, but this is the coup de grace of supporting a dictator who's starving his people, who's killed his people, who is holding on to power by a thread. Bernie can't see that his regime is over. Bernie can't see that he's denying aid coming into his country and hurting his people. The only reason why Bernie won't throw the towel in is because he then will have to admit that socialism is a failure. Well, we know socialism is a failure. We don't need Venezuela as an example.
So a tax cut across the board for all Americans would be fair.
I think you're the first man in this country who left Bernie Sanders speechless. The top 10%, to your point, of income earners, they pay about 70% of total federal income revenues. That's less than 1% of the population. They pay about a third of our federal income taxes. I mean, the politicians who preach like this, that Bernie Sanders, you know, about not paying their fair share, I think they're ignorant of these facts. What do you think?
I agree. All they want is, you know, free. The word's free. They always use the word free. And there's nothing free in this world. We have to all work for it, whether you're a small business owner, whether you're an employee at a small company, whether you're a minimum wage worker, or whether you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. You have to earn what you get, and that's the way it is.
You know,
there have been many, many other socialist attempts that have been utter disasters in Bernie's lifetime. Bernie's a gadfly. He'll always be a gadfly. If you're for something, Bernie will always be against it. He spent decades.
He's a selfish guy, then. If you ask me.
Selfish. By the way, he's rich. He has 3 homes. He made over $1 million a year.
Yeah, Nicolas Maduro has got $1 billion tucked away as
Absolutely.
well. Absolutely.
That's his bud.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I find very disturbing, because I don't know how you can look at the pictures that we've seen, whether it's the marches in the street with the hundreds of thousands of people saying they want and they need change, whether it's the babies that are being kept in cardboard boxes and laundry baskets in maternity wards in Caracas because they don't have incubators. So many kids are dying. They don't have the bassinets that you would put a child in. They don't even have the gloves so that they can perform an emergency C-section. They don't have anything there. They don't even have running water the majority of time in these hospitals. And Bernie Sanders is willing to look the other way and say, let them figure it out when they can't figure it out, because the guy that's given them a box of food to feed their family for 2 weeks is saying, you have to vote for me?
I mean, this is the same Bernie Sanders who believes we should have open borders for people to come flooding into our country illegally, who supports sanctuary cities. It's a life of contradiction and exception for people like Bernie Sanders. He's more akin to be the Secretary General of the UN than the President of the United States. No, Bernie's not fit to be President of the United States. No way.
He's done. I predict it. He's not going to get very far. He really isn't. Nor is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for that matter.
And you were doing limbo. And if I remember, you won. But you have to admit, if you're going to be a politician, it has to be so much fun being Bernie Sanders, because all you do all day long is promise people free stuff, because you know your plans are never going to get implemented. And so you can spend the rest of the time being an angry old man that everyone is thwarting your great ideas. Shockingly enough, white sausage swingers Bernie Sanders and Beto O'Rourke nosedived into a sea of jeers when they failed to properly pander to the curious crowd. Here's ham-handed Bernie fumbling a question on women of color in his realm. Bern?
Black women will be an integral part of what our campaign and what our administration is about.
Hold on. Yeah.
Okay? And that means...
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Yeah.
Actually was at the March on Washington with Dr. King back in 1963. And
I don't think the showing the taxes is that big a deal. I think he's going to show he makes a lot more money than people think. But the idea of taking from other people to equalize the whole thing, it just is not the way to do it. Absolutely not the way to do it.
You're saying that it would just crush the U.S. economy. That's your point.
Well, absolutely. The American dream, the competition, we have to have competition.
I want to get quickly to this story. Bernie Sanders has a big carbon footprint. That's what, the critics again are saying. He's got 3 houses. The Clinton campaign, Hillary's team says he has a private jet problem. He demanded to fly private jets, wouldn't fly commercial, charged the Clinton campaign $100 grand. He's racked up 324,000 private jet flights. But a big fight is now broken out between Sanders' team and the Clinton team. Sanders' team is calling the Clinton team, quote, a bunch of A blanks. Ernie, this is a heck of a fight happening right now.
Even let us help. They're denying humanitarian efforts that the United States has offered in many other countries, blockading roads and bridges. Bernie's on the wrong side of history here.
You are right. You are right, and that's why I predict he's done. Brad Blakeman, thank you so much. It's good
Thank
to see
you.
you.
But why don't they turn on him, Kennedy? That's the thing that worries me. A lot of this stuff bemuses me, but I get up to a point, I go, is this country really that far gone that a man who made it to age 40 without a full-time job can talk about the government giving full-time jobs to young kids who should be shooting for the stars? And he's saying to them, no, come in here, and after you join Student United Nations, after you go on your vacation break to build homes in Mexico, after you get into an Ivy League school because you know a language and you've mastered an instrument and you've played a sport, you should get out and make exactly the same as the kid who wasn't even showing up for class. And I would think the entire country would say, that's crazy, but they don't. And that is a scary proposition.
It is, because there are more people who sadly are expecting handouts than ones who are outraged that they have to pay for programs that, I'm sorry, like, call me a traditionalist, but those are not rights. There is no right to a government job. There is no right to a Tempur-Pedic mattress. There's no right to free insurance. There's no right for you to take my money for your neat project. There are ways of paying for this stuff, but it is not at the hands of socialists like Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, well, at least he's right on that point. But the guy he's been around. He's got some money. He's part of the system. Yet he pretends he isn't. It's disgusting in a way.
So you're saying he's all about big government making taxpayers pay for everything, where he's never run a business and had his feet in the game to see how it feels to be taxed like businessmen and business people have been taxed. Is that your point,
I think he's afraid. Yes, I think he's afraid of competition.
The question is this. I'm a business owner, and we just keep getting kicked in the teeth by this administration. It's regulation after regulation and tax upon tax. What Donald Trump does understand is the complexities of business and, to reward the person who takes the risk. So really, my question is, this country was founded on entrepreneurship. Why is this administration so against the business owner? Please tell me.
I don't think this administration, the Obama administration you're referring to, is so against the business owners. When you talk about tax increases, Obama did. I don't know your income, and I'm not concerned about your income. Obama did raise taxes on the top. Excuse me. He raised taxes on the top 1 or 2%. And you know what? I would have gone further. I think the wealthiest people in this country are doing phenomenally well. 52% of all new income generated today goes to the top 1%. So you and I may have a difference. But yeah, I do believe that billionaires and multimillionaires should be paying more in taxes.
I'm a business owner. I'm not a multimillionaire. I'm not a billionaire. Okay? I mean, you haven't lived until you put a payroll on your credit card. This is the reality of the backbone of this country.
Well, the backbone of this country, I think we should support entrepreneurship. I think we should support small business. But I am not supportive of large multinational corporations that make billions a year in profit and don't pay a nickel in taxes.
And I was thinking about this today. I can't wait till you come to New York. That's where everyone fell in love with you, was on Saturday Night Live. And I hope at some point you get to visit in person so we can have one of these discussions.
Well, you've been so kind to me, Kennedy, and I love being with you, and your monologues make me laugh. So as soon as I get into Gotham, I will come over and we'll do the gin game together.
Send out the signal, baby. Thank you, Dennis.
Amazon didn't pay federal taxes, but Bernie Sanders says Amazon can pay for this, and doing corporate tax hikes like that will pay for it. Your take?
My take is that Bernie Sanders is stomping on the American dream. He's afraid to compete. I don't think he's qualified for president. I truly don't.
You know, he's never run a business. He's never signed a paycheck, never run a payroll. He has demanded taxpayer. That's what the critics are saying about Sanders. He's demanded that taxpayers pay for big government socialist ideas. But Sanders, Bernie Sanders has routinely blocked disclosing information about his personal finances. He's been chronically late with his Senate financial disclosure forums. Same for the disclosure forums during the 2016 race. What is with Bernie Sanders not showing the world his tax returns and his financial disclosure forms?
Thank you, Liz.
So it's clear that you understand that small businesses report their income on income tax returns. 2/3 of small businesses do that. You get it. Does Bernie Sanders get it?
Yeah, he's always talking about the 1% or the 0.2%, and whether people feel they should be taxed or not, those people earned that money and they work for it, and they pay the majority of taxes anyways.
Well, I'll give Sanders this. I think he's smart enough to realize that there's great hay to be made right now convincing noble young people that they don't need money to be truly rich. And that's why he's out there thumping the drum of, I guess it's subsidized self-reliance.
Yeah.
It's an odd dichotomy, but I just remember when I got out of college, and I'm not innately a go-getter, I'm kind of a laconic individual, but I just remember getting out and thinking, all right, at least the game board's all in front of me. I can go, try, do what I want, get smacked down for a few years. I'm still in my 20s, go again, hard charge, shoot for the sky. And kids are getting out now and they're saying,
meh.
No, $15 an hour government job sounds good. Boy, they have broken their spirit.
It's so true, and it happens in college. I mean, that's where it goes back to. It's this weird sense of entitlement that you deserve something. But at least if you're going to be entitled, you should hope that you're entitled to much more than an ordinary, predictable life. I agree with you completely. It's like when we talk to our kids, we don't say, I hope you find a 40-hour-a-week job in a cubicle, and I hope you deeply resent middle management, and you spend 2 decades toiling, being completely unfulfilled. You are so right about that.
Somehow Bernie Sanders is a millionaire. He owns 3 homes. He's always late filing his financial disclosure forms with Senate Ethics Committee panels. The Democrats today, John, they are nothing like JFK, who agreed that tax cuts create jobs and growth. They basically are creating class warfare to divide the country. Let's take a listen, and let's listen to JFK versus the Democrats of today.
Across the board, top to bottom cut in both corporate and personal income taxes.
The wealthy should pay their fair share.
It will include long-needed tax reforms that logic and equity demand.
There is nobody in this country who got rich on his own. Nobody. You built a factory out there. Good for you.
Every dollar released from taxation that is spent or invested will help create a new job and a new salary.
He's going to bring all these jobs back. Well, how exactly are you going to do that? What magic wand do you have?
And these new jobs and new salaries can create other jobs and other salaries, and more customers and more growth.
It raises taxes on the middle class, slashes taxes on the wealthiest 1%, and explodes the deficit.
Well, Nancy Pelosi just has her facts wrong. What do you think of that? JFK understood it. The Democrats today think.
It's amazing, and it's frustrating that all they want. It's amazing.
JFK understood it. The Democrats facts wrong. What do you think of? Well, Nancy Pelosi just has her facts wrong. What do you think of that? JFK understood it. The Democrats today don't get it. What do you think?
It's amazing, and it's frustrating that all they want to do is tax and tax and tax, and we need some relief. The top 1%, they're paying the majority, and they deserve a break like everybody else. How much do you really think an American should pay in taxes when some of them are already paying 39-point-something%. It's just crazy. Like, how much more do you want to take from an American worker?
You know, John, you're out there. You're a small business guy. Do other small business people and do people in the heartland agree with you? Do they get it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, Bernie Sanders, getting back to it, his Senate campaign spent nearly $40,000 on luxury private jet travel last quarter. He, again, made more than $1 million in 2016, owns 3 homes, chronically late filing Senate financial disclosures. Sort of like, do as I say, not as I do, right?
That's correct. Do as I say, not as I do. That's exactly right.
So did you get to talk to Bernie Sanders after the town hall? Did he say anything to you?
Not directly. He was more interested in talking to the young people that were interested in free college and free health insurance.
All right, John, thank you so much for joining us. Again, John Conrad, he stood up to Bernie Sanders.
He enriches with so many intersectionalized candidates and caucus goers just vying to show the world how vibrant their party has become. A political organization called She the People, which brings together women of color under a femalicious political tent. They held a presidential symposium last night in Houston with various candidates passing and failing some pretty predictable litmus tests on...
Hey, I love you! I love you, Bernie! I love you! We have got to defeat Donald Trump. And we have got to elect Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine. No! 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 No!
You can hear people in the audience going, "We know." And while commendable, this well-worn anecdote doesn't quite afford the rumpled socialist the community cred he imagines. And he just sounds like a clumsy ideologue trying to sell an old yarn to a sophisticated group of energized weavers. Fellas, if you're going to appeal to a broader base, you should anticipate some of the layup questions you'll get about women of color.
Being kicked in the
business. But you business. But you business. But you know. But I am not supportive of large multinational corporations that make billions a year in profit and don't pay a nickel in taxes, nor am I supportive of those corporations who throw American workers out on the street and then move to China or to Mexico.
What about the small businesses?
I think we should be supportive.
Do you think there's space to work with Trump on that? He's talked a lot about getting rid of regulations.
Well, you can't say what does that mean? Should a small business or a large business be able to pollute the water or the air? Or the food? No, I hope you don't believe that.
I don't pollute air, I don't pollute water, I don't pollute food. However, when these rules and regulations come in to cover all of business, and you're trying to start a business, it's tough enough in the
Jim, I think we should take a look at it, but it's, you know, the devil is in the details. We got to see what those regulations are. Some of them, by the way, may not all. It's very easy to blame Barack Obama for everything, by the way. You know, some of those regulations may be state, maybe they're local. I don't know exactly the federal regulations that you.
But you're saying you're open to looking at.
Of course, look, if there's a regulation that doesn't make any sense, why do you keep it?
Up at a time of economic anxiety, or worse, just cynicism. So I would just advise everybody be careful about suddenly attributing to whoever pops up at a time of economic anxiety the label that they're populists. Where have they been? Have they been on the front lines working on behalf of working people? Have they been carrying the laboring oar to open up opportunity for more people? Now, there are people like Bernie Sanders who I think genuinely deserve the title, because he has been in the vineyards fighting on behalf of these issues. And there, the question is just going to be, all right, we share values, we share goals, how do we achieve them? And I do think Enrique's broader point is right, which is, you know, sometimes there are simple solutions out there, but I don't know, I've been president for 7.5 years, and it turns out that's pretty rare. And the global economy is one of those areas where there aren't a lot of simple solutions. And there aren't a lot of shortcuts to making sure that more people have opportunity in our countries. We are going to have to educate our kids better, and that takes time. We've got to make sure our manufacturing sector is more dynamic and competitive, and that takes time. We've got to restructure our tax codes to incentivize the right things and make sure workers are getting higher pay. That takes time. We've got to raise minimum wages. We've got to make sure that college is affordable. We have to restructure and reform our financial sector so they're not reckless, but we got to do so in ways that don't destroy the entire system and throw millions of people suddenly out of work. And when we bailed out the auto industry,
our CNN senior congressional producer Deirdre Walsh just reported it. I assume you know Deirdre. She's a very good producer. I'll read you the line that jumped out at me. House Democrats roughed up Senator Bernie Sanders in a closed-door session Wednesday after he deflected questions about when he would formally back Hillary Clinton for president, with a group of members booing him at one point, according to 3 Democrats who attended the meeting.
Well, a bit of an exaggeration, but we have differences of opinion.
What happened there? Why would these Democrats start booing you?
Because we look at the world a little bit differently. What I am trying to do, and the reason I ran for president, is to help transform this country, to deal with income and wealth inequality, a declining middle class, the fact that so many of our young people are leaving school deeply in debt. That's what I have focused on. And I'm very happy to tell you that today, Secretary Clinton came out with a proposal on higher education, which combines what her campaign had talked about and what my campaign had talked about.